Make yourself relax. Let go of all the thoughts. All the thoughts of past. And while you breathe in and out naturally, normally, observe that. Simply just observing and being aware. Then we can think that just as I wish happiness, I do not wish any suffering, pain for a moment. Equally, each and every sentient beings also wish to be happy and do not desire for a second, just like ourselves. From that perspective, we all have differences at all. Even those whom we dislike have, they are just like us, wanting to be happy, not wanting suffering. only that, each of those senses most kind, caring, loving, in the past many times, and has been so kind. It's only just that we don't remember them now. Not only one time, but many times. And also in this lifetime, we are so much dependent on other sentient beings all the time. When we were very young, we were dependent and under the care of our parents, grandparents, siblings, friends. Then over the time, we were under the guidance, care, love of our friends in our school, college, teachers, guidance, administratives. And also whenever we when we get sick, also we are so much dependent on others, doctors, nurse, and all others who are involved in that health care. And also in order to make our living, we need a job. And so we are very dependent on people, job. And as we get older, and we will be also depending on more on others' help, care, compassion. Basically, success, prosperity, goodness, happiness comes through others by depending on others all the time. There, it will be very and incorrect not to have any sense of concern for others and only things about oneself. from now on, I will try all my best to have sense of concern, care, sympathy, empathy, love towards all sentient beings as much as one can. And to be helpful and beneficial. Those which we can do directly, those which we cannot help directly at the moment, through our prayers, dedications, wishes, indirectly. In the future, whenever we get opportunity to help them directly, we will do that. Therefore, the purpose of my life, meaning of my life, is to be able to contribute, help all other sentient beings in reducing and in releasing them from all the suffering and cause of suffering. To lead and guide them to not only temporary happiness, ultimate, everlasting, true happiness of fully enlightened state. Why try to do that at this point as much as we can, but to be most beneficial in a most effective, in most skillful, without the limitation that we face at the moment. One must actualize fully awakened state oneself to be able to do that. Therefore, how wonderful it will be if I can achieve that fully enlightened state as soon as possible. May I be able to achieve that fully enlightened state. I will achieve that fully enlightened state for the benefit of all sentient beings. That fully enlightened state, one must cultivate and fully develop loving kindness, compassion, and the awakened mind of bodhicitta, together with wisdom reality. And through the practice of self-perfection and so forth. To one must reflect, practice correctly, continuously. For that we need to study, learn more. As well as to be reminded of those practices. Again and again. For that very reason that I'm going to engage in listening, discussions, reflection, contemplations. May all my action through the three doors, thought, speech and body, be most beneficial to each and every sentient thing all the time. Especially those which we encounter in our everyday life. Directly. At least engage harmful, negative thought. So you can visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, who is inseparable from our root gurus, all the gurus. And as we recite the Buddha Shakyamuni's mantra 3 times, any sentient beings, Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to die. His enlightened mind transformed into white light nectar flow and cleanse oneself, all sentient, the sickness, all the spirit harm, all the negative karma, all the delusion, all the obscuration, totally, completely. So while keeping that visualization, we feel 3 times. Daya ta o mone mone ma monae soha. Daya ta o mone mone ma monae soha. Daya ta o mone mone ma monae soha. And as we recite 4 more times, again the Buddha's enlightened yellow, orange, light, nectar, flow into oneself, all sentient beings, then we receive enlightened body, speech and mind, and all the place to be able to practice in our path without any obstacles. go to the teaching press 73, I guess, and we do the first part just like yesterday. So page number 73, the first one 3 times like yesterday. The endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, of the world, supreme guide of human beings, be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the dark flame, I prostrate, make offering, go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, to God, supreme guide of human beings, be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Sherab flame, I prostrate, make offerings, go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, and beyond, the fourth destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, to gather knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings, be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the self-claim, I prostrate, make offerings, go for the mandala. What is the page? 100. 100. Okay. Sa shi pu ge zhong xie me to zhang ri ra lin xie nian den gen ba de sang ge me de wu wa yi ru gu nam da xian la zhe ba shou yi dang gu ru ra na man da la ga ni ya ta ya mi. So refuge in Bodhicitta. I think it's 98 at the bottom of that. I go for Dani Chasu Shi, Dagi Shuja Gibe Sonam Gi, Jola Penche Sangye Juba Sho, Sangye Shudan Soki Chonam La, Chanchu Patu Dani Chasu Shi, Dagi Shuja Gibe Sonam Gi, Jola Penche Sangye Juba Sho. So again, good morning. So yesterday we went through the advices, gave to refrain from those negative actions which brings harm to others and oneself, and encourage us to engage into virtuous, positive actions, which brings benefit to others. And so, yeah. So he encouraged us to refrain from non-virtuous actions, as well as drinking, taking intoxicants, and so forth. Also to refrain from use, using the false, instead encouraging us to be truthful, honest, and use our speech in a positive way, kind, gentle, which help and touch others' mind. And he also encouraged that when you were different afflictive emotions or defilement, and try to apply the antidote as soon as possible, and try to let it go without holding in our mind just the. And on other side, whenever when have any positive thoughts, whenever any positive thought arises, try to keep that a long time, long duration. Try to maintain that. Try to keep it like the drawing on the stone, which lasts for a long time. So yeah, these are some of the. He also encouraged us to the six perfections, the practice of six perfections, as well as taking care of your parents, elderly, those who are in. Yeah. So more or less, I think up to that, I think we went. I think we finished up to 18. So even though I think again it is taking a little bit more time, but I guess it is always kind of challenging whether you should go fast with less explanations or should you go slowly with explanations. But anyway, even if we don't finish, it's not that we need to finish it. So then verse 19. There are four types of persons: those who from light end up in light, those who from darkness end up in darkness, those who from light end up in darkness, and those who from darkness end up in light. Be like the first. So here, when we try to practice the Dharma, trying to minimize those negative thoughts and non-virtuous speech and actions and thought, and when we're trying to improve our, as well as improve our physical and verbal behavior, and positive and virtuous. It very much, we very much next verse. So we very much are influenced. At the very beginning level, we are very much influenced by the environment, surroundings, people around us. So therefore, we need to have the right people surrounding, right environment. So that is what I want. So in these verses, he's saying from light to those from light to end up in light means, so there are 4 type of, we can say, actions, karma. So certain actions which is motivated by virtuous mind, okay, virtuous mind. Not only it is motivated by the virtuous, good heart, noble, virtuous mind, but also the action itself is a virtuous, which benefit and help that short term, long term. So not only motivation is virtuous, but actions is also virtuous. Okay. Such actions and karma lead to a higher rebirth. So that means from higher rebirth to higher rebirth. From light to light means from through such actions, then we have higher rebirth to higher rebirth. So in order to for a spiritual, the ultimate goal is to achieve full enlightenment and nirvana. In order to achieve that, then to practice for many lifetimes. So for that, then we need to have the right conducive rebirth, and which is high rebirth, and so therefore that. And then from dark to end up in darkness means due to very negative intentions, such as strong lust or desire and anger, especially a lot of anger, strong anger. Then we not only there is motivation, anger, then also in actions, then we engage in a very non-virtuous negative actions of harming someone physically, very strongly harming someone, directly harming. Such actions lose low rebirth in the futures. Such is calling from low rebirth to low, which dark to darkness. From dark to darkness here means sentient beings who low rebirth, and then due to their such action, non-virtuous negative actions of through both motivations and actions, and then again they take low rebirth from rebirth. And then from light to darkness is, at the moment, we are in a light, because we have higher rebirth, human rebirth. And then in this lifetime, then we create negative karma to be born in the lower realms. And as a consequence, if we take rebirth in lower rebirth, then that's from light to darkness. And then certain sentient beings who are in a lower rebirth now, but due to certain practices, due to certain circumstances, due to the either from their positive thoughts, minds, or due to the power of holy objects, then they can have a higher rebirth due to that actions, karma, in connection. So those are from dark to light. They can be born to a higher rebirth. And so that is in terms of action. In our cases, so that mainly is referred to those 4 different types of rebirth: higher to lower, and from higher to lower, and lower to high. Those 4 different types of rebirth. But also it means that our actions can have 4 different types. The action which is negative, from the perspective of motivations and action in both, and positive, both motivations is positive as well as actions is the actual action is positive, helpful. Motivation might be negative, but then the actual actions, what we are trying, helpful, at least immediately. For example, maybe our motivations is kind of selfish, very selfish motivations. But out of that very selfish motivations, we might be helping someone. Yeah? It is not so great. It's totally selfish. But the actions is that you are doing something to that person because you are helping them. So that would be more like, dark to light. The motivation negative, but the actions is more like helpful to someone, light. And light to darkness is that your motivations might be very good, light, very good motivations, but then your actions could be harmful. That is, from that actions, from motivation point of view, is good motivations. You wanted to do something positive, something helpful, that. But then in terms of when you are actually engaged in the action itself, then sometimes we might engage in certain way that it becomes harmful to someone instead of being helpful. So that action can be from light to dark. So there is 2 different way of understanding from the different karma, and then especially referring to the rebirth. Yeah, and among that, then he is advising that you try to be like the, which means both motivation and action should be positive, helpful. So through that, try to have continuous, so that you can continue to practice, so that you can achieve nirvana, liberation, fully enlightened, without break. It's not like one then one step back, so that you can continue to make 1 step, 2 step forward all the time. For example, if we have high rebirth, if we practice, and then somehow if we go to lower realms, then it's like going one step back. Again, it's almost like we have to restart because it's much more harder to practice there. So therefore, is in order to continue to move forward in our practice until we achieve that goal, it's important to have high rebirth for that. So that is why he's increased advising. And then 20. People are like, so he's saying there are many different peoples. Some people are like mango fruits, unripe but seemingly ripe. There are some mangoes which is, but from outside it seems like a ripe because it's yellow. Even though inside is not ripe, still not ready, but outside it looks like ripened because it's kind of become more yellow. And then some of them inside is ripened, but outside is still green. And then of course there are other mangoes with unripened inside and also seemingly appearing unripened. So it's not ripened. Also you can it's green and seems like unripened. And then ripen and appearing ripen, and so not only is ripen inside but outside also it's yellow like a ripen. So there are 4 different kind of that. Understand them to be like that. So here he's saying, as I said before, in our Dharma practice, the environment, people surrounding us is very important, especially for those beginners and where they can be influenced by the surrounding people around you very easily. So then in that cases, it's advising to have the right kind of companion, right kind of friends surrounding you so that you can continue to practice more easily, less distractions, less obstacles. And so when describing that, then he's talking about, example, mango. And so also there are people who full of defilements and but external appearance with kind of even though, for example, someone who is very have very negative thoughts and ill will feelings towards you, let's say, or towards someone, but express and show that instead in front of you smiles. Backside criticize, front praise you. So that kind of is unripened but seemingly ripening. Is negative but externally show the aspect of good and positive. Then of course there are some other in the heart, kind, compassions, full of compassion, love, care. But their behavior sometimes can be a kind of personality be more than behavior. It might be something quite, who doesn't know how to be very diplomatic and who are very direct. Sometimes, again, people can get hurt, not because in their heart they have that love and compassion, but they don't have you can say social communication ability, or maybe they are too direct. So from external appearance, that he or she seems quite not a good appearance, but inside is a really good person. And we often see those kind of people, isn't it? Some of them really, really extremely nice. Until you really know them, you wouldn't know that those are really good. Outside, they don't look like so nice, kind, compassionate persons because of the way their personality or their way of communicating, their way of expressing certain things. Seems they are too too direct. So that is ripening inside, but seemingly unripening outside. Then, of course, there are who are kind, compassionate, caring from their heart. Also, outside, they are very kind. Their communication, interaction with others are also very kind and very that. So that is ripening inside and ripening also outside, appearing of ripening out. And then there are, of course, also others full of delusions inside, unkind, cruel, mean, and also external. They show that expecting inside and unripening outside. So, just like those mangoes, there are 4 types of people like that. And he's saying try to avoid people like who are unripening inside and who are unripening outside. And then try to be more close with people who are ripening inside and ripening outside as well, around that. Friends, that basically is saying. So when you are some friends, then it is easy to practice the Dharma at the very beginning. Then, of course, when you have the strong of a strong practice, then you can be with, because you are very grounded with your practice. So even you are surrounded by all kind of different friends, they will not be able to influence you. You might be able to influence them. But at the very beginning, when we don't have a strong practice grounded, then we can be easily, even though sometimes we think, no, they can't be, I'm strong enough that they cannot influence me. I can influence them. We feel quite often sometimes, isn't it? But then over the time, slowly, sometimes we are not being even aware of that. Slowly, they influence us, and we started to think more like them. We started to behave more like them. That is why the society is like that. They're influenced by the whole society. A lot of time, even though you don't agree with a lot of things, how things are in society, but we just a lot of things, because that is what we see there. It's not easy to go against the normal society way of thinking, people around you, the way of thinking or doing things, people around you. And so therefore that is uh, especially at the very beginning. There is saying, a Tibetan saying, um, if someone with a good behavior be friendly with someone who is not good behavior, so your good behavior is really really high level, and the someone who's behaving in a negative, not a very strong, together long time, it influence this way. On other hand, it's very difficult to influence the other way around. And again, we can see with our own. It's easy to encourage someone to be compassionate. I mean, it is not easy to encourage and inspire someone to be compassionate. It's very easy to inspire and angry, make them angry. It's very easy. It's very difficult to inspire someone to meditate, practice. It's very easy to do some kind of distraction. So that those who can see that. And so not only you have to be friend like surrounded by that, then you yourself has to be the mango with ripening inside and outside. So surrounded by such friend, and you yourself try to be that type of person who is outside. In basic meaning that not being hypocrisy, that you shouldn't be hypocrisy. Ripening inside, not ripening inside and ripening outside, seemingly outside is a hypocrisy. So he's encouraging, try to be more honestful. And because, if you are not truthful and honest about that, then as we discussed yesterday, people lose trust in yourself, confidence in yourself. And even when you try to be honest in the future, it's very hard. Yeah. Verse number 21. So this is for the guys, okay? But of course, it also refers to the women's. Of course, this he's directing to the king directly. So he's sending this letter to the king directly. So of course, he's referring to him. So this is again to he's asking his certain way of reflecting, contemplating to overcome attachment in general, especially attachment towards someone's body, and especially attachment to have a sex with someone, basically. And in order to kind of overcome that, how you can reflect in certain way. So here he said, do not look at others' wives. If you happen to see them, general recognition of them, in according to their age, as your mother, as your daughter, or as your sister. Should lust arise, think truly about their bodies having the nature of filth. So here he is saying, out of attachment for a man, do not try to look to others' wife consciously, because if you have attachment and if you consciously look, then your desire increases. Okay, so one thing, there is attachment. Secondly, you consciously try to look on that object, then of course the attachment increases. When attachment increases, you might get in some kind of unhealthy relationship, physical relationship, and that could be harmful for the other family as well as for your family. So for a woman, is someone's husband, someone's wife. Yeah. So basically, that is for everyone. But even without trying and consciously, but of course, when you go places and go, then you of course sometimes you see them, and you see very attractive, beautiful, handsome women, and then of course attachment can arise again. Even you try to avoid, but sometimes you cannot avoid when you go into gatherings. You have to open your eyes, and when you open eye, you see them. Either you have to close, not see anyone. So when that happens, then try to, one way of doing is, if you can looking according, for example, if you see someone's wife, husband who is older than yourself, try to see them as your mother, as your father. If you see someone who is younger than you, you try to see them your brother. For a woman as your brother, for the man as your sister. If you see them more or less same, equal age of yours, no, if the younger, then is like your son or daughter. Okay, it's a boy. For the women, you try to see them as your son, and for the man, you try to see them as a daughter. And if it's equal some, then you try brother and sister. So if you can use that, and if you can really feel that kind of, to be able to see them as your mother, father, as your daughter, sons, as your sister and brother, then you would not have that strong lust and desire. It can reduce that, the attachment, the lust of that particular kind of attachment, that particular kind of lust. So, of course, if you don't feel really they are my sister or my daughter or my mother, of course it will be more difficult. But if you can really feel, this is my mother, this is my sister, this is my daughter, then definitely it can reduce the level of the attachment, the lust for such such pleasure. But even after trying that, if your attachment, if your lust does not decrease, Even when you try to see as daughters, brothers, sisters, son, then he is saying the next see that their bodies, the object that is see of that. So when you see impurity, then I can less attachment. When you see purity, then there is more attachments. So then looking at impurity, which he will explain here later, and also you will see in his precious garland and also in quite details. Um, so seeing that is a body full of filth. If you can really see it, maybe you can let go of your attachments. If you can't really see it, then it will be hard. So I think he will. But as we mentioned yesterday, we try to also see, yeah, impermanent. Also that can be helpful. And then is hold your mind tightly when it started. So it is how to practice of guarding our mind from being to the object of desire, of delusion in general, but especially the object of desire. How can we protect our mind? How can we guard our mind? And so hold your mind tightly when it started to roll, meaning moving, yeah? Means wandering, yeah. Those the objects of your defilement, especially attachments, such as the six desired objects, as though it were your own learning. So here, what is when we learn, when we study, yeah, when we learn and we try to remember what we have learned, studied. So, yeah, we try to remember them all the time, so that we don't forget. Study what we learn. In the same way, here he is saying, try to keep your mindfulness and be very aware of that, not forgetting what to be abandoned, what is to be abandoned, what is to be practiced, and then not forgetting and remembering what is beneficial and what is not beneficial. So when you remember that, suddenly you know, oh, I shouldn't be wandering my mind that way because it's not beneficial, it's harmful. And so then you can be able to stop it. A lot of time we don't remember at that point that it is harmful, it is healthy, unhealthy. And so therefore we try to guard, protect, and hold our mind those things. Similar to your child, for the child when very young, you have to be alert all the time, watching the children all the time. Yeah? Because if you don't watch for 5-10 minutes, they will be in trouble, you will be in trouble. So constantly you have to watch them all the time with alertness. Could make, because they don't know much at that time, and they could do a lot of things which can be very take their life or damage, hurt themselves. Same way, we have to watch our mind with that all the time, just like you are watching your child all the time, with mindfulness, introspections, all the time watching your mind. It's just same like the child. If you don't watch, then it will damage. It will bring harm. A lot of time, as we mentioned yesterday, we don't want to make any mistake. We don't want to get under the influence of any of the defilements and so forth, but we continue to do that. Why? A lot of time we are not aware, we are not watching our mind. So watching your mind all the time, and so through that watching, when you notice your mind is wandering towards objects which could increase your attachment or any of the delusions, then you try to redirect another objects. A lot of time we are not aware, and our mind has started to wander towards the object which increases in delusions. And we only notice and aware when it has already been too strong, and then it becomes very difficult extremely difficult at that point to control it, because it has reached a point where it is almost a state of explosions, resembling a treasure. So of course, when you have treasure, if you have something kind of, or whatever the treasure is, you try to preserve and protect it very with all your force. Try to protect our mind like a treasure. Instead of letting it wander wherever it wants. At the moment, we just let our mind wander where it goes. We don't try to protect it. We don't try to guard it. And that is the problem. When we allow our minds to wander endlessly wherever it wants. Comparable to your life. And so it means we will protect our life even at the cost of anything. We are willing to protect our life with all our force, with all our skills, with all our means. Same way, we have to try to protect our mind to those objects with all our means, with all our power, with all our whatever way that we can protect it. Recoil, what is the recoil? Hold back. Recoil from pleasure of sensory objects as though they were like a beacon, poison, and a weapon, an enemy, or fire. So, when our mind started to wander towards the object of, for example, or any delusion, especially the object of desire, then we'll try to keep it away, distant and keep it away. Because if we allow our mind to wander, and we don't have that, because we don't have control that attachments, And then when the mind contact that object, then the desire, the attachment, lust increases. And then it kind of wounds your mind, like vacuum and poison. It's like poison, then it started to kind of destroy your body. Here it started to destroy your mind, dilute, pollute, and destroy your mind. So therefore, by seeing like that, you try to protect that way. Also, by seeing it as a weapon, the weapon which and your if we allow our mind to wander into the object of attachment, desire, then that will destroy the very life of liberation, and it will cut the very life of the liberation and the fully enlightened state. Like an enemy, where your enemy, same way, if we allow that attachment, one of those delusion arises, then, as we have been talking yesterday, it will harm immediately this life, it harm in next life, and in our future life. It distance ourselves from the nirvana. It distance ourselves from the fully enlightened state. It makes us unhappy. And so therefore, that is the real enemy. It harms in so many different ways like that. Fire, the fire will burn whatever that is. So if we allow the desire and other attachments, other defiances without protection, that will burn all the virtues that we have created in the past. So it burns all the virtues we have created in the past. So by seeing that, then we try to distance ourselves, try to keep away ourselves from being in contact with the object of defilements, such as desire, so forth. And that is one of the practice the Buddha gave. One of the reasons why Buddha have all these rules, regulations, vows, precepts for lay persons as well as for the ordens, the monks, nuns, different type, is that to create that boundary, For the bodhisattvas highly developed, there is not much boundary like this kind of boundaries. Faced with it, overwhelm, and they can control it. But for us, at the very beginning, said in Abhidhammakosha, so here it says, we have not abandoned the delusion, but we're still there. Okay? The delusion's there. And then objects is there. The mind and objects and delusion there, and then we have this all other conceptual application, which even say, oh, why it's so good, why it is so nice, why it's so bad, whatever. And then whether it's attachment, anger arises like that. And then that's how it is. So one way of, at the very beginning, especially at the very beginning level, one way of countering the delusion from arising is to keep away, far away from the object. And it's just same, like for example, someone who has a problem with the addictions, of whatever addiction that is. because they don't have the capacity, power at the very beginning to overcome the temptations when they are in the close to the objects. They cannot. So the best way is to keep away the object of addictions, and then slowly build up stronger mind where they can start it to kind of not be next time when even when they face the object, so they have the resistance to that, the ability to resist it. Yeah. But until you have that power capacity, it's better to be keep away. And so that is here again. He's advising to watch your mind, senses, and protect God from coming into contact with the objects of the delusions. Then 23. Sensory objects bring ruinations. How do you ruinations? Ruin, yeah. And the Lord of the Trumpet has said that they are like a kimpaka, kimpaka fruit, sweet on, sweet inside, sweet on the outside, bitter within. Okay. Abandon them by their iron chain. Worldly people are bound, requiring samsara. So, I don't know whether this is the right translations. More than the sensory objects is the objects. Okay? Because the object itself, is not the desire, the attachments comes through the contact in being that object is the problem. For Arhat and Buddhas, even they come in contact with sensory objects, mental objects, it's not a ruin, it's not a problem. But for us, when we still have and when our mind come in contact with the object, then attachment arises, lust arises, desire arises, or anger, for example, whatever delusion, and then that become that ruins and destroy us. So that is. So the Buddha has said attachment is like a kimpa. I don't know exactly what fruit that is. Is supposedly inside is a bitter and poisonous, but outside is a little bit sweet. So, and outside it looks very nice, beautiful, and also a little bit much sweetness, but inside not only is bitterness, but it's the poisonous. So if you eat it at the very beginning, it might give you sweetness, but then it will destroy you because it's poisonous. Those attachments like that. So attachment and desire at the very beginning, it might feel that it gives you some kind of pleasure and satisfactions. On the surface and at the very beginning, you might feel some kind of satisfaction, some kind of pleasure. But in long term, it will harm you, it will destroy, it will lead you more disappointment. It will lead you more dissatisfied mind. So it is saying like that fruit. Just because it is sweetness in outside, you shouldn't be eating that because it will destroy. In the same way, just because the attachment and desire bring us a little bit of satisfaction, a little bit of happiness at the very beginning, you shouldn't be following it. Otherwise, it will lead you to much more distractiveness. So therefore, try to abandon, try to eliminate, try to overcome those attachments. By the iron chains, only if you are bound in prison, marikun samsara. So, what is saying, what keep us in samsara, vicious cycle of samsara, is the attachment. So even though, so if we talk about 12 link, how the evolutions of the samsara, we are caught up in samsara, and then all the suffering that comes within the samsara. First, there is due to ignorance, we create the actions, the karma. The karmic is planted or in the third, the consciousness. Then at the time that seed, which has been karmic seed, which has been planted in that consciousness, will be activated through craving and grasping. That 8 and the 9, craving and grasping, and they both are attachment. And then 10, they have been activated, then 10 is becoming our existence, which has been, the seed has been fully potentialized to produce this. And then we take a new rebirth, and then in the new rebirth, then we experience the 6 link, the result, 6 result. Name and form, 6 senses, contact, feeling, birth, aging, and death. So that is how. So while we are experiencing one set of 12 link, we are creating 12 link all the time. So that is why endless, viciously. So if you see that, even though it is fundamentally ignorance, we start, but if you don't have the activating cause, conditions, that karmic seed will never be activated. And so therefore it cannot be experience the result. No matter how many be born in samsara, whether lower and high rebirth or our mind's consciously carrying different seeds. But to take a rebirth, you need to be activated one of the seeds. The activating, which activate any of those seeds to take a rebirth in samsara, is the craving and grasping. If you don't have craving and grasping, there is no rebirth in samsara. There, karmic seed is there. It's like all the seed which never get the water. So even you have thousands of those seeds, if it never get water, it can never produce the result. And so therefore it can never produce samsaric rebirth until it is activated. Those seeds is activated by craving and grasping. And so from that perspective, that is what that craving is like the iron chain which tied up us in the samsara and samsara rebirth. It's like that iron chain that we have chained into the samsara from being liberated from the samsara. What keeps us in the samsara chained by that iron is that attachment. So that attachment is like the iron chain that keeps worldly people in the prisons of endless cycle of samsara, one after another, endlessly. Even we have all karma still left there, you will samsara if you don't have attachment, because you will never have the craving and grasping. If you don't have craving and grasping, you cannot take a rebirth in samsara.
Yes, Bardo, and you still have the craving and grasping. At that point, is it what is expressed towards the grasping towards, or is it a wider range of things?
Well, I think normal craving and grasping has already occurred before the parto. Okay, so if we are going to be born in a human realms, the craving and grasping has already, for that rebirth, the karmic seed has to be born as a human being has already through craving and grasping, even before the death, just before the death, even before the parto. So more or less, you have already activated. But also, even you have activated, it can in parto state if due to certain practice of yourself or due to others and dedication and so forth, it can still be changed. But in generally, activated in that already that. In general, that is that unless it has been changed at the time of in the parto. Of course, if it's changed in the parto, then it will be activated for the death of that parto. Yeah. So, as death, small death, and like every for 7 weeks if they don't the rebirth before that, and so with each time that can be activated. So generally, yeah, that when we talk about craving and grasping, we are talking not at the parto stage, but one of those 6 M's. Again, it can be also changed in parto, and then in parto again as you said, sometimes the craving and grasping can be activated by different things. Yeah. This. Yeah.
Question. I know this is talking about the early stages, but if you use negative means to help you deal with the craving, doesn't that increase the negativity in your mind and also the dualism, the dualistic thinking, by using those ways of filth and fire and fear to help you lessen your attachment and craving?
So, can you repeat again one more?
Yes, if you use as
Those kind of analysis.
those kinds, right, which can be very negatively directed toward the object, but which are then part of well, aren't you increasing the negativity of your mind as well as dualistic thinking? as you're trying to craving?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. To some extent, it's in view, but at the moment, we need a dualistic view to overcome
Right.
we need positive dualistic view to overcome negative dualistic view. But of course, we want to reach non-dualistic view, but that only comes at high level of practice when you reach the path of seeing and when you have a direct understanding of emptiness. Before that, we have to rely on concept and conceptions and analysis, reasoning through conceptions on those. Therefore, even though in certain point it is obstacle, at this point it's beneficial, helpful. The way, as Buddha explained, I think in Daimankasa Sutra, you need the concept of the teaching, Dharma, in order to overcome non-conceptual understanding of the Dharma and go beyond that. So it is just it's like a bridge. Bridge is helpful to cross that part. Once you reach that cross, then it is. You need the boat to go to the other side of the shore. It's not obstacles. It's helpful. But once there, then it becomes burden. Then you just have to leave it. You can't be carrying it. It will be burden. Another way of looking is just like saying, satellite. First, you need to push them. But when you reach certain point in the sky, then you have to drop it because it's too heavy, so it cannot go. So then that is where they drop. So it is helpful. For us, it is needed to reach non-dualistic view. First, we rely on dualistic. Within the dualistic view, there are positive and negative. Some are helpful, some are helpful. So therefore, and I don't think that contemplating and reflecting increases the negativities. It helps us to actually overcome negativities. But in terms of dualistic view, definitely there's more dualistic view. But then we need those dualistic view. It doesn't come naturally. Only it comes when you reach certain realization. For example, when we talk about the 5 path, 10 bhumis, the path of accumulations, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditations, and then the result, path of normal learning, whether it's arhat or whether it's fully enlightened. And it is a gradual stage that you go through path. In first 2 paths, your understanding of emptiness is still on dualistic. Starting with here, very dualistic is the experiential understanding, but still dualistic. And then within that there is 3 levels. Within this there's 4 different levels, and with each level you have less and less dualistic view. You reach the path of seeing, and when you have the direct understanding of emptiness, without conceptual but direct understanding, realization emptiness. When you are in that meditative equipoise, in that emptiness, then there is no dualistic view at all. And that happens naturally. It's not like you are trying to imagining or trying to visualize or something like that, but it happens gradually like that. And so then after that, then you don't need those kind of reasoning and logic, using those dualistic reasoning and logic and view anymore. But then before that we need. Yeah. Yes, please.
Would you mind saying the 12 links again of samsara, or independent causation,
Mm-hmm.
and you focus just on grasping? Is that the only one we really have to worry about?
I think that really we have to worry about, of course, I'm explaining because just we're particular verse and trying to explain what this verse when he said that this part, how do attachment, how we are tied up in samsara. That perspective I'm explaining. But of course, if you look from 12 different links, then the main focus is the ignorance, fundamental, because that's the starting point. Fundamental ignorance.
Could you say the 12 again?
Yeah, it's the ignorance. So first is the fundamental ignorance, the ignorance of the ultimate nature of self and other phenomena. So ignorance, due to the ignorance, then we create the karma or the actions. Having created the action, the seed is immediately left in consciousness, continuity of our consciousness, the mind. So the consciousness is the third action, third. And then, of course, in terms of sequences, there are two different sequences, but in terms of taking some lifetime, then at the time of the death, seed within the mental consciousness will be activated by craving and grasping. Craving and grasping both are attached, but then craving is less stronger, and when it becomes very stronger, then it is called grasping. And then existence, and that karmic seed which has now been activated, like giving a water to that seed by craving and grasping, which has been activated. So now it has this 10, the existence is produce the result in next moment, and then we die. So, and then in the next life, then we have the other 6 results. So that is name and form. So that means at the time of the name and form is physical body, and name is the mental, the 4 other aggregates. So that is the name and form, and then 6 senses. So then slowly, our 6 senses or eyes, organs started to develop the 6 senses. Then when we have developed those 6 senses, the mind is there, because during the name and form, the name at that time, the mind is already, the object is there, the senses has been developed. So then when these 3 come together, the object and the senses, then we come in contact with the object. Then next one, even we have consciousness, and even there's the object, if you don't have eye faculties or eye organ or eye senses, then we cannot, our eye consciousness cannot contact with the object. So all 3 coming together, the eye sense organ or eye sense faculty, and the objects such as visual forms, and then our contact with the object. So that after coming in contact with the object, then feeling arises. So the next one is feeling. So when your consciousness, whatever that consciousness, sense consciousness or mental consciousness, come in contact with the object, and when it comes in the object, then we have feeling of pleasure, feeling, neutral feelings, different feelings. Once we come in contact with the object. Then again another starts. Then attachment, craving, then there's craving for that, and so that, and thus, so that is 10, and the 2 others are birth, and then the other is aging and death. So these are the 12. So there are 2 different sequences in normal the way it is, the sequences of explanations in the sutra is ignorance and the actions, consciousness, and then name and form, and then six senses, contact, feeling. I think, yeah, craving, grasping, existence, and then birth and death. So those are the 12.
Do they happen, the first ones happen in one bardo, and the second one happen in a different bardo?
No, the 12 set of one set of 12 ling of one particular rebirth can be in quickest 2 lifetime and longest 3 lifetimes. So for example, lifetime, we will take example, due to strong anger, for example, then I smash mosquito. Okay, due to strong anger, then I smash this mosquito. And that I could, so the ignorance, that one is, that anger towards that is driven by that ignorance. Ignorance, out of that strong anger, my act of smashing it, taking the life, and then I create the karma, and the karmic seed is imprinted in my mind. And then at the time of death, due to certain circumstances, situation, then that karmic seed of that killing of mosquito can be activated by craving, grasping, and then fully activated the existence. So in these cases, in this life, I come to ignorance, actions, the consciousness, craving, grasping, existence in this lifetime. And then next rebirth, I have in, let's say, lower rebirth, one lower rebirth. And then in that lower rebirth, then there's all the result, name and form, six senses, contact, feeling, birth, aging, and death in one of that. So in this whole one circle is in 2 lifetime. But it can take 3 lifetime. For example, the ignorance and the actions and consciousness are here of killing. But at the time of death, maybe due to certain situations, it will be activated another seed, not this seed. This karmic seed of killing the mosquito, but maybe something else, it is some other virtuous or non-virtuous karmic seed. And then it might take one life, 2 life, 3 life. It takes how many ever, then it could come anytime. Then in one of the life, due to certain circumstances, situation, then this karmic seed which I have been carrying, if I have not purified, which I have been carrying, will be activated at the time of death by craving, grasping, and existence. So 3 finishing that, so 3 finishing this activating cause, craving, grasping, and then existence. One lifetime, another lifetime at the time of death. And then the next lifetime, then the 6 results are experienced. So in that cases, it took 3 lifetimes to complete the first 3 causes in one lifetime, then other 3 causes, craving, grasping, exist in one lifetime, and the 6th lifetime. So in that cases, to complete that whole one set. And so no, I mentioned before, the activating of the karma is if we say in human life, is at the time of our death. But of course, also that could change at the pardo, and then or at the pardo again it can be activated different. But if nothing changed in the pardo, then we have already activated the karma at the time of death in this human life, and then passing through that, and then to the whatever the karmic seed that we have activated of next life. Clear? Okay. Yes, please.
Yes, do we know what, do we know, like you said, maybe that karmic seed from that killing that was activated, do we know what selects which karmic seeds are activated at that point?
We're trying to develop the technology to see that.
Would you send me an email when it happens?
This might be a silly question, but so it's negative karma to kill a mosquito, but if the mosquito is carrying a bad virus that will make people sick, but you're not killing it out of hostile intentions, but simply survival intentions, same with certain ticks and things like that, it's still taking a life. So does one do a purification for that, but does it still carry a negative karmic seed?
Okay. So first for the Anil Lamo's questions, I think it's very, as far as I know, I think it's quite hard to really how that is activated and which one. I think it's quite difficult, specifically in particular karma. If you are to, in general, you can talk about something. In generally speaking, especially in Abhidharma Kosha, what they say is whatever karma is stronger at that moment, whichever karma is more stronger, whether it's negative karma, positive karma, and within negative karma, whichever karma is more stronger, that will be activated or that will ripen first. If it's ripen first, that means it had to be activated in order to ripen that first. But if karma is kind of equal in terms of strongness, then whichever is that you are more accustomed to that particular action's karma, then that will ripen first. And if that is in terms of your familiarity or accustomed to the karma, both positive and negative are similar, then I think it's normally mentioned whatever is created first ripen first. So this is one general way of how which karma will ripen first, and that means which will be activated first, generally speaking. But of course, it's more general because. And then another things in general speaking is at the time of death, if you are able to keep your mind more peaceful and calm, then you activate positive karma. But when our mind is disturbed, and when our mind is full of negative, activate one of negative karma. So not only it create negative new karma, but also it activate one of negative karma. So that is why is regarded very crucial at the time of death to keep your mind calm, peace. Possible positive state of mind, such as loving kindness, compassion, develop kindness, compassion, those positive state of mind. But even we cannot develop the kind of loving kindness and compassion, positive, at least trying to keep your mind peaceful and calm. That is very crucial, important factor. What kind of rebirth that you have. That means what kind of karmic seed that you will be activated and have rebirth as a consequence of that. So those are the general. But within the positive karma, there are many positive karma. Within the negative karma, there are many negative karma. So which one you are going to activate? How? That part I really don't know. Because we make the choice. certain situations. So that I cannot be so specific on that particular, in that particular. And then with the Lisa's questions, definitely, even when you don't have anger, and even it's just for survival, if we kill it, still we are taking a life, and taking life is a life. Of course, the okay, karma, any whether it's positive karma or any negative karma. So that is the karma of killing. Karma of killing is not completed. Positive and negative, there are four conditions: the motivations, and the actions, complete, and the base. So there's the base, there is, and the actions and completions. So when all four are there, then it completes one part: karma, killing, stealing, whatever. When one of conditions, then it's not complete. When two of conditions are missing, it becomes even less. When three conditions are missing, it's even less. So it means it becomes more and more light. Okay, same in terms of killing karma is same, but within the karma of killing, there can be many different levels in terms of light and happiness. And in that cases, then there's less than it. And so, especially when we talk about strong killing karma leading to lower realm, of course, we are talking more of all conditioned together. That, but still, it is still part of killing, karma of killing. So it's much more lighter, but still it is killing. So therefore, we will have the consequences of that. So therefore, definitely, we need to purifications. Absolutely. Not only just for survival like that. Even sometimes maybe when we walk and when we drive and when we drink, and that without intentionally also a lot of animals, insects are being killed, which we cannot avoid very hard. And so that is why we need to do the purification all the time. That's also why we need to keep all the sentient beings in our prayer all the time, and dedicate for all sentient beings who have died through our actions or someone's actions, whoever's actions. Also, we try to dedicate for their better rebirth, higher rebirth all the time, every day, and we try to do purification every day, because there are a lot of negative karma that we have created, many of them even for it is helpful to the purification every day. Do a purification practice every day. It won't take. Of course, you can do long, short. It can be one can do in the. So, good afternoon. Welcome back. So we just finished the verse number 23, and then verse of those who trump over the object of evil, roving six senses, and those over a host of foes in the battle, the wise favor the first to be the best heroes. Again, it is similar to what uh, Shantideva said in his book, The Way of Life. He said, those who destroy and kill their enemy, external enemy in war, in battles, normally we regard them as a hero, people. But he said, it is nothing to be so feel so hero. Anyway, is even you don't kill them, they will die by naturally. It's only a matter of time. Those are the heroes who overcome those defilements, the delusions, in the battle with the delusions, and who works for the others, for the benefit of others. So, similarly, those who have been able to guard their mind from towards the sense objects, which by following and sense allow, which make the attachment, desire, and other delusion arises. Those who are able to overcome those delusions, attachment and other delusions, those are the real heroes, and those are the real heroes. The wise people regard them as the real hero, not the other one. And if you see, it's much more harder to win the inner battle than external battle. And if you have win the internal battle, in a way you have won the external battle as well. If you don't have internal enemy, there wouldn't be external enemy. And so therefore, when you win over your internal enemy, is same as winning the external enemy. And so therefore, those who have overcome the internal enemy highly, respect them highly, hold them our model as a hero, as an inspiration, as an example. And we also try to be hero ourselves by following their example and engaging in battle or their internal enemy. So yeah. And then verse number 25. Look at the body of a young woman, separate on its own, with a foul smell. It resembles a vessel for all filthy matters leaking out from 9 holes, difficult to be filled and covered with skin. And then look, its ornament also separate from its own. So again, it is another practice, meditations of contemplations to overcome the attachment, especially attachment to the body and attachment to the pleasure of the sex, for example. And so so that is where, in order to reduce and overcome that, so this is one way of looking again. So therefore, he's referred, because he was man, so he will be more attached to the women. So therefore, that is looking in that. So basically, it's saying that when you see the man, young man, young, handsome, for the men, the object is women attract. So what he's saying is, arises instead of attachment and totally kind of following the desire and attachments, you try to kind of and then try to reflect, contemplate. The very body which I'm attached to and to whom I want to have that physical relationship. Normally we don't reflect and contemplate, we just follow that drawn. And so so instead you try to pause and contemplate and think, even though it appears very attractive as an object of your attachment, but what is there to really get attracted to that? And so he's saying it looks very attractive because with all our kind of makeup, you know, we have a lot of makeup, lot of image to make it look beautiful, and with ornament, with it up and that, and also with some smell, scent, and so forth. So he is saying, instead of that, try to look natural, without any makeup, without any those made by scent and everything. So if you look naturally, if you kind of take away and look in the natural state of that body, smell, man, women, which is not so same like the scented. Recently, while I was in Australia, the stories they was discussing. One of the friends, her friend, recently got married, and then she was saying she was excited and very excited and everything. But after she got married, then she was saying to her later, after I don't know how many weeks, months, or something, I didn't know men smell. And I think that would be the same for the men to see women when they don't use any kind of scent and like that. The natural scent that we have is not so pleasant. And also she said, I didn't know the men are so lazy. Experience and impressions after she got married. The excitement's gone, and then so here similarly, so that is where that is the reality, that is the fact. So here Nagarjuna is saying, you know, if you really look the very natural state of body, man, woman, so we have all this natural smell which is not very pleasant. And then all these holes from where a lot of stuff coming from nose, from mouth. If you really, it's a little bit kind of disgusting, isn't it? When you don't really contemplate it, it's an object of attachment. But when you start into that, it is kind of what you call exciting to some extent, you can say. Maybe not, that's not the right word. And so, and then he said, so if you take away all the garment, clothes, all the ornaments, all the makeup, everything, and look from naturally, and then natural smell, and not be as attractive as it seems at the very beginning. You might have different. Before there is strong desire when you see it. Now maybe your desire might decrease. And then if you look, it's just even though the color is attractive, maybe the smoothness of the body might seem very attractive and those things, but that is all the image. If you take away that color, that shape from the skin, and if you look with your wisdom eye below the skin, then of course there is full of garbage. When you see the organs, all your different part of the body, that is what inside organs, and then it's all full of as Shantideva said, like 32 different impurity in your body. 30. Yeah. Excrement, when we see outside, disgusting. But it's inside. That's what it comes. When it comes out, we can't. It's disgusting, but that's what we are carrying. So when you look from perspective, then it can be helpful to let go of the attachments in that particular area. So that is what he is saying. So I think when we have a strong attachment to the body, then if we can reflect, contemplate, meditate in that way, maybe it might be very helpful, beneficial to reduce the attachments and the pleasure from such physical relationship, pleasure of that, or experience of pleasure from that kind of. So the point is not to kind of look down or bad to other person. It's just to let go of attachment to that body and the attachment to the pleasure, the experience that come through that. So it's all about attachment, okay? It's something to attachment. So don't get confused with something else. And not only others, you can also listen to yourself when we get attached to our own body, our appearance. When we think, oh, I'm very handsome, beautiful, and think that you are much and much someone else, and then we'll try to look, wait a minute. Behind that, just the appearance. And if you go deeper, then again there's full of garbage, full of filthy, impurity, nothing to be so proud of. It's like a vase painted very well and full of carcass, excrement, to some extent. In from one perspective, that is how it is. So that is. So that basically that is what he's saying here, to let go of that attachment to the body. Realize as well that lust or desire or attachment in those with a desire, such as the 5 or 6 sensory objects of attachment. What happened with labor, tormented by a maggot, who relies on a fire for sake of some comfort and get no relief. So, following the attachment in order to get some pleasure, some satisfactions, cannot lead us to lasting satisfactions and happiness. That's what it's saying. If you follow your attachment in order to fulfill actions, then you will be very disappointed. That is what it's saying. That will never happen. You are going to be very disappointed. You will be deceived, misled. That's what it has been doing so far. He gave an example. Leprosy, someone who has some kind of leprosy, some other disease is similar due to certain maggot or certain things that they started having itching and something kind of, and when you put fire, something burn it, somehow it stops that itching and unpleasantness. For a few moments, it gives you some kind of relief, some kind of pleasant, joyful feeling, but then it doesn't stop there. Then again, after some time, you start feeling same unpleasantness until you cure that, whatever that is bothering you that way. And then after some time, again, you feel same unpleasantness, same kind of itching. Put some kind of fire, whatever, to reduce that. It helps for a few moments, for some time. Then again, it give you relief. It only give you few seconds, moment of relief, feeling pleasant, satisfaction. And sometimes, we also have not necessarily leprosy, but like sometimes even we have, due to certain, I don't know what, you have itching, in your body, unpleasantness. And when you start to scratch, for some moment it gives you some pleasant feeling, isn't it? Then again you scratch, because again that doesn't go away after some time unless you treat that one. If you don't treat, then after some time, again you have same feelings. And then again you scratch. For a few moments it gives you relief, pleasant feeling. You keep on scratching, then so that never give you lasting relief from that unpleasantness, that itchiness, until you treat that one. By following that, you cannot. So he's saying same thing, that is attachment, following attachment, this is similar. Attachment, desire, lust, in order to find some pleasure, some happiness, some satisfactions. And for first few moments, second to a few days, weeks, months, might give you some level of happiness, some level of happiness, but it can never give you lasting satisfactions. It can never give you satisfactions, lasting happiness, joy. It's just like. Another classical example is when you are thirsty and suffering thirsty, in order to relieve the quench of that thirstiness, if you drink salted water, it gives you, when you drink the salted water for a few moments, it gives you relief because you are very thirsty and you are able to drink that salted water, it gives you. But then what happens? You want more because you drink salted water. And then it can never lead to a point where you say, Same thing when we follow attachment, desire is always like that. Always like that. We feel I will be very happy, satisfied. And enough if I could have this and that. Those things might feel happy, satisfied for a moment, but that doesn't last. Then after some time, that lead to dissatisfied mind, unhappy mind, and then you feel you need something new, something better, something more, and there's no end to that. We keep on doing that, and never being able to find sense of enough, satisfied when we follow the attachments. Sometimes we wonder, some of those billionaires, they have so much, enough for many generations, their children, enough to run some countries, more than some countries' one whole year budget. Still you see them running after that much very strongly. I wonder why? Well, basically we are on the same page. We are following attachment, they are following attachment, that is what it is. As long as we follow attachment, same thing, even like them, we will still be running, trying to make more, trying to amass and collect more. As long as attachments, we will keep on running, because they feel same way, not enough, not satisfied. So therefore, that is why, and so satisfactions has to come from within, not by external object. External object cannot give us sense of content and satisfactions. Us real lasting peace. The most it can do is some physical comfort. Little bit of that. The most it can do, but not really lasting happiness. No real inner joy, peace. Not really satisfactions. Those have to come within. And those comes when we stop, when we start stopping running after the attachment and desire. When you stop running after the desire and attachment, then we begin to find more content in our life. And with that content that comes from within, inside, then we will find more peace in our life, more joy and more satisfaction in our life, instead of running after something all the time. Then you begin to feel you don't have to run after things all the time. You begin to kind of relax, rest. Otherwise, we are constantly running after things all the time, even not physically, but mentally all the time, mentally all the time. Yes.
So, what is the difference between attachment and desire?
Well, when we use here, we are using kind of in same way. But in Tibetan, it's a different word. It's kind of attachment, or it can be just a